Jaya Yamuna Tira Vanachare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
वैष्णव वृंद की ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय गौर प्रेमानंदे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
Hare Krishna. We are very fortunate to have with us His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhu with us. Of course, Prabhuji does not need any introduction. All of us know. In fact, our Bhakti, Krishna consciousness seed is being watered and grown up by Prabhuji's wonderful association and lectures. Still, for our purification, we'll hear about him. Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, seeing the prevalent problems of stress, depression, addiction, and overall misdirection, all caused by a lack of spirituality, he felt inspired to dedicate his life to the cause of sharing spiritual wisdom of Bhagavad Gita under ISKCON. Prabhuji travels all over the world giving talks on spiritual subjects.
That's a very long introduction.
In various places like TEDx, UNESCO press conference, Intel, Google, Microsoft, Salesforce, Stanford, etc. Prabhuji gives around 400 talks across 100 cities in 4 continents every year. The statistics is 2 years back, maybe increasing more now. Prabhuji is also editor of Back to Godhead, which is the official international magazine for ISKCON. Prabhuji is also member of ISKCON's Shastrik Advisory Council, SAC, which offers counsel on scriptural matters to the highest administrative body of ISKCON, that is GBC. Prabhuji has presented papers on the interface of science and spirituality as an invited delegate at national and international conferences, including World Press Conference 2006 and World Peace Congress 2008, organized under UNESCO chair. Prabhuji is also the author of world's only Gita Daily Future, which is gitadaily.com, and also spiritualscientist.com, which are very well-known websites of Prabhuji's. Prabhuji's articles have been published in many national papers, including Indian Express, Economic Times, Times of India, in Speaking Tree column. His writings in English have been translated into several foreign languages, including German, Chinese, Romanian, and several Indian languages, including Kannada, Telugu, Bengali, Hindi, and Marathi. Pro is the author of 25 books on applied mindfulness and purposeful meaning, some of which are Energy, Science and Spirituality series, Recession, Wine Vineyard Temple, FAQ, DT worship, idol worship or ideal worship, oh my God, GK for PK, etc. So very, very fortunate here. Proji comes once or twice in a year to give his valuable association to all of us. Let us welcome Proji to ISKCON NVC's temple by loudly chanting one time, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Thank you very much.
Hare, Hare Krishna. Am I audible to everyone? Thank you. This is Granth Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 17, Text 17. Chitraketuruvacha Pratigruhnami te shapam Atmano Anjalinambike Devairmartyaya yat proktam Purvadishtam hitasya yat Chitraketuruvacha Pratigruhnami te shapam Atmano Anjalinambike Devairmartyaya yat proktam Purvadishtam hitasya tat Chitraketuruvacha Pratigruhnami te shapam Atmano Anjalinambike Devairmartyaya yat proktam Purvadishtam hitasya tat Chitraketuruvacha Namite shapam Atmano Anjalinambike Guptam Vishtam hitasya Manojinambike Prahyayat Proktam Purvadishtam Vigranami te shapam Purvadishtam hitasya tat. Vaishnavis? Chitraketu uvacha. King Chitraketu said, Pratigruhnami, I accept. Te, your. Shapam, curse. Atmanaha, my own. Anjalina, with folded hands. Ambike, O Mother, Devai, by the demigods, Martyaya, unto a mortal, Yat, which, Proktam, prescribed, Purvadishtam, fixed previously according to one's past deeds. He, indeed, tasya, of him, tat, that. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Chitraketu said, "My dear mother, with my own hands folded together, I accept the curse upon me. I do not mind the curse, for happiness and distress are given by the demigods as a result of one's past deeds." Since Chitraketu was a devotee of the Lord, he was not at all disturbed by the curse of Mother Parvati. He knew very well that one suffers or enjoys the results of one's deeds as ordained by Daiva Netra, superior authority or the agents of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He knew that he had not committed any offense at the lotus feet of Lord Shiva or the goddess Parvati. Yet he had been punished, and this means that the punishment had been ordained. Thus the king did not mind it. A devotee is naturally so humble and meek that he accepts any condition of life as a blessing from the Lord. Tatte nukampam susamikshamaanaho. 10:14:8. A devotee always accepts punishment from anyone as the mercy of the Lord. If one lives in this conception of life, he sees whatever reverses occur to be due to his past misdeeds, and therefore he never accuses anyone. On the contrary, he becomes increasingly attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead because of his being purified by his suffering. Suffering, therefore, is also a process of purification. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says in this connection that one who has developed Krishna consciousness and who exists in love with Krishna is no longer subject to suffering and happiness under the laws of karma. Indeed, he is beyond karma. The Brahma Samhita says, "Karmani nirdahati kintu cha bhakti bhajam." A devotee is free from the reactions of his karma because he has taken to devotional service. The same principle is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 14:26. Sagunan samtityaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who is engaged in devotional service has already been freed from the reactions of his material karma, and thus he immediately becomes Brahma Bhuta, or transcendental. This is also expressed in Srimad Bhagavatam 1:2-21. Kshiyante chasya karmani. Before attaining the stage of love, one becomes free from all the results of karma. The Lord is very kind and affectionate toward his devotees, and therefore a devotee in any condition is not subjected to the results of karma. A devotee never aspires for the heavenly planets. The heavenly planets, liberation and hell, are not different for a devotee, for he does not discriminate between different positions in the material world. A devotee is always eager to return home, back to Godhead, and remain there as the Lord's associate. This ambition becomes increasingly fervent in his heart, and therefore he does not care about material things in his life. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments that Maharaj Chitraketu's being cursed by Parvati should be considered the mercy of the Lord. The Lord wanted Chitraketu to return to Godhead as soon as possible, and therefore he terminated all the reactions of his past deeds. Acting through the heart of Parvati, the Lord, who is situated in everyone's heart, cursed Chitraketu in order to end all his material reactions. Thus Chitraketu became Vritrasura in his next life and returned home back to Godhead. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanishalaakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami iti namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So I'm grateful to be here with all of you today. And I traveled almost all over the ISKCON world now, and there are less than half a dozen temples where we have so many devotees for a weekday Bhagavatam class. It shows both the sincerity of all of you as well as the potency of the place where Krishna Katha is happening in an attractive way for all of you to be inspired to come. So, all of you have a very special place in the ISKCON world. I'm grateful to have been from here and to be able to come here regularly. So I'll be giving a series of 3 sessions today, then Friday and Saturday, I believe. So I'll be talking about one theme which comes up in this series. Why do good people do bad things? See, normally in theology, that is the study of God, there are 2 questions which are faith challengers. One is the standard question, why do bad things happen to good people? Now that itself is difficult to answer. But that doesn't damage our faith as much as when good people do bad things. Why? Because when bad things happen, we can just attribute it to nature. Maybe this is just the way the world is. Whatever, nature of the world. But when it comes to people, it becomes much more difficult. Nature of the world. Now we might say this is just the nature of people. But I thought you are a good person. This person is a good person. Why did this person do like this? So is it that people are not actually good? Even people pretend to be good? So it raises serious questions. In theology, the first is called as natural evil. Why does a good God allow evil to exist in the world? And the second is called as moral evil. That means if God is good, and we are all parts of God, we are all children of God, then why do we have a tendency to do bad things? And so then it raises questions, are good people really good? Or is it just a show? And then how can we trust anyone if good people do bad things? So we will be focusing on this second question primarily. Why do good people do bad things? So it will be in 3 parts, and I'll be discussing this overall in 3 broad ways. ICA. Is ICA a degree? Because CA is a degree. So we'll discuss in terms of, say, if I am here. So in this case, Chitraketu is here. And say Parvati is here. So generally speaking, when bad things happen to us, the first thing we consider is the intentions of the other person. Why did this person speak like this about me? Why did this person do this to me? So we start thinking about the intentions of the other person. So how to see the intentions of the other person. That's one aspect we'll discuss. Then, when something happens to us, now that same thing is actually happening to us, you could say. It's coming to us. But when it's happening to us, I'll be talking about causes. That when something happens to us, how much is the other person's intention at all to be considered? Or like Prabhupada says in this purport, it's all around karma. So should we just think it's my own karma and not consider the other person's intentions at all? So in terms of causes, So the other person's intention is one cause. Is it the sole cause, or is it to be not considered a cause at all? So, when Sita was abducted, Ram didn't think it's Sita's own karma or my own karma. He considered the intention of Ravan, isn't it? So, if the intention and the cause, these two are distinct things. And then finally, we'll talk about our response or our action. What should we be doing? We could call it R. So, these 3 sessions. So, today I'll be talking about intentions. Tomorrow, day after tomorrow, I'll talk about causes. And in the final day, I'll talk about how we respond. And this is especially relevant for all of us because we live in the community of devotees. And in general, we assume that devotees are good people. And when some devotees do questionable things, do even hurtful things, then it really makes us question our faith. If not our faith, at least our commitment. Faith is, I believe in Krishna, but, I don't really care about Krishna's movement. Like that, I was at an interfaith conference in America, and there was a Christian pastor who was sharing his experiences about how difficult it is to share any message about God in today's world. So he said he was on a radio talk show, and this one person said that, I'm a Christian, I don't go to any church, but I'm a Christian. So he said, I very cautiously, respectfully asked him, can I know why you don't go to any church? Because I haven't yet found any church that agrees with my philosophy. So their idea is, you're not going to church to learn philosophy. I already have a philosophy. Let me find out which agrees with me. So the point is that there are many people who say, yeah, Jesus is good, but the church is not good. So a lot of people have issues with institutionalized religion. I was just leading a group of about 30 people, 30 Americans, yoga students on a tour of India. We went to Rishikesh and Vrindavan. So then they often ask us, are you an organized religion? So there are different ways to answer it. So one of the ways I answer is, you stay with us for some time, you will realize we are not very organized. But the point is, there are a lot of people who say, yeah, Krishna is good, God is good, but I don't want to do anything with God and with God's people or with God's movement or God's organization. So people get put off, people get burned out. So this happens when we start feeling that the people around us, they are doing things which are questionable for us. Now this happens everywhere. So we'll talk about why it happens, but in general, when good people do bad things, it's a problem. Now in this case, we will see that Parvati is a good person. Not just a good person, she is a great person. She is the goddess, she is Durga Devi. So generally there is a slight difference between, say, Kali and Parvati. They are the same manifestation, but generally the understanding in the Devi tradition is that when the goddess is with Shiva, she is gentle and soft, she is Saumya. And when she is alone, she becomes Ugra. So Durga and Kali are generally considered more ferocious forms of the goddess. Parvati is considered more of a gentle form of the goddess. So Parvati is supposed to be gentle, and yet she has acted very severely towards Chitraketu. Now how is Chitraketu processing this? Now, he is saying that Pratigrahunami te shapam, I accept whatever you have done. And he says that dishtam, that whatever you have done, it is ordained. So we'll over the series of talks we'll discuss what this ordained means. But when it's somebody like Parvati involved, it's relatively easier for us to say, maybe this is the plan of the Lord. Maybe this is arranged by the Lord. So, if a very senior devotee acts in a way that is hurtful for us, it's relatively easier for us to accept it. But a devotee just a little senior to us, or a devotee who is equal to us, that devotee acts in a way that is hurtful, then to see it as the Lord's plan is very difficult. Is it the Lord's plan, or is it the absence of your plan? Or worse still, is it the presence of your plan? That means you didn't plan and that's why things became chaotic. Or is it you deliberately wanted to hurt me? So what happens is that we generally question intentions to the degree it's like almost like inversely proportional to we question position. The more we question the position of a person, the more we are likely to question the intention of a person. Or rather, let's put it this way. You can put another way also, but let's put it this way. So, the more we question when we question the position of a person, then we question their intention also very much. But if we don't question the position of a person, if we accept that this person is very exalted, then, okay, whatever they done, I accept it. So if a spiritual master comes and chastises us, even if we have not made any mistake, we'll accept it. But if some relatively not such a senior person criticizes us, it becomes much more difficult to accept it, chastises us. So for us, what happens is, when we look at people's actions, generally, that is the nature of the human mind, this is human tendency, we always look from actions to intentions. When somebody does something, we try to explore, why is this person doing it? So here, we'll go into the intentions and exploring the intentions shortly. But before I do that, one important point of how we are approaching this pastime. Now, in general, the pastimes of the Lord, they can be approached broadly at 4 levels. So this is based on multiple places. These 4 levels explicitly are not listed anywhere, but there is a mention of something similar in the Chaitanya Shikshamrut by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. There is also a mention of something similar in Madhacharya's Brahma Sutra Bhashya. And if we look at the purports of the Acharyas, we will see these 4 different levels. So at the most basic level, it's literal. Literal means, this is what happened. Just hear it. And at the literal level, there is not much analysis. Just hear the story and enjoy the story. So literal, so we can consider the level. I'll just mention the levels and then we'll look at how it affects. Now at the literal level, there is entertainment. Now entertainment, I'm not using in a negative sense, because yukta ahara viharasya, vihar is also a valid need for us. So many people they go to a Bhagavad Katha and they like to hear the Katha. And they feel relaxed, they feel happy. And it's good that they are seeking entertainment through some pastimes of the Lord than rather some Bollywood or Hollywood movies or something like that. So at a literal level, just hear the story. Don't think too much, don't analyze it. This also purifies us. Then there is the ethical level. Ethical level is where we try to analyze. Okay, this character did like this, and that character did like that. And in this situation, which action was right and which action was wrong. So here, the result of this is, the technical word for it is edification. Edification means guidance. We get guidance for our own actions. Okay, how should I be acting? Okay, in this situation, this person acted like that. So ethical, for example, we say Ravan acted out of lust and then he was destroyed. So that gives us some instructions. So ethical level is more involved. There is more analysis over there. Now beyond that, the slightly different is the metaphorical level. The metaphorical level also there is edification, but here more it is like conceptual illumination. So for example, when we are looking at the metaphorical level, we are concerned not so much with who is Ravan as what is Ravan. Now Ravan is a historical person, but Ravan is also a universal mentality. And we focus on the metaphorical. Now the Advaitins love this metaphorical way of analyzing, and they try to give symbolic meanings for everything. Now our tradition has been relatively conservative, relatively careful, parsimonious in using the metaphorical way of analyzing. But that doesn't mean that all metaphorical understandings are simply impersonal. No. In our tradition also there are many metaphorical readings that are there. So for example, in the 10th canto, when Devaki's 6 children are killed, then the 6 children, they represent the 6 anarthas. So we get illumination in the sense that we understand some universal themes. So you will notice from here, like this, basically the level of analysis increases. Now beyond this, it's transcendental. At the transcendental level, there is simply absorption. So absorption means that a person simply relishes the pastimes. And at the transcendental level, one just sees everything as the arrangement of the Lord. And what is right, what is wrong, all that is not, oh, it's all the Leela of the Lord. Just relish the Leela. Now Bhaktivinoda Thakur, so these 4 levels, as I said, that they are based on, they are not derived from. As Chaitanya Shikshamrut he mentions it, but especially in the Krishna Samhita he talks about it. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur was talking about this, addressing this to the Bhadraloka, the intellectually oriented people who were English educated, and they were re-examining their own traditions. So he said that, he correlates this with, this is the Kanishta level. To see everything literally is Kanishta. And then higher than that is the Madhyama level. So he says it's good that you are seeing beyond the literal, that you are thinking of deeper themes, that is good. So it's like he pats them on the back, yeah, it's good that you are seeing beyond the literal. But then he says that actually beyond the ethical and metaphorical there is something higher. That is the Rasika level. That is the Uttama level. So he says you are higher but you are not the highest. And he says the great mistake that people can make is sometimes people equate the transcendental with the literal. This is a big mistake. The two are not equal. At the transcendental level, one has great love for Krishna and one is immersed in Krishna. At the literal level, one just takes it as a story, like children. Now there was this little Krishna TV series that was made. It is very well made and it's nice that it is there. It is that at least because of that, Krishna as a character is there in people's minds. Is there in the horizon of their consciousness. I was in Florida, I was addressing a group of not devotee kids but Hindu kids. They had organized a program for me in a Hindu society. So I asked them, have any of you heard of Narasimha? So one of them raised, like some kids, if they are clever, they are very proud of being clever also. So you can see it from their expression also. So one kid, he raised his hand, like very proudly, he said, he was a former Prime Minister of India. So he had that general knowledge about politics, but no general knowledge about spirituality. So at least because of this, there is, because of things being presented at an entertainment level, at least Krishna or the characters of our scriptures are there in the horizon of people's consciousness. But for such people, at the entertainment level, there is no difference between, say, little Krishna and, say, what is that, little Bhima or big Bhima, whatever it is. Sorry, Chota Bhim. Okay, little. So between a historical character, between the transcendental character, between the fictional character, it's all entertainment. That's all. Whereas, in the transcendental level, bhakti pareshanubhava virakti ranyatracha. A person has interest in Krishna and nothing else. So it's a very different level. Now, we will focus here on the ethical level primarily in our discussion. Then we will look a little bit at the metaphorical, but not much. We will focus on the ethical level. And we will see Srila Prabhupada also addresses these multiple levels at different places. So for example, sometimes Prabhupada says that Arjuna's illusion in the start of the Bhagavad Gita was Krishna's arrangement. And when he says it was Krishna's arrangement, Arjuna is a pure devotee, he cannot fall into illusion. If he had gone into illusion, that is Krishna's arrangement. So Prabhupada is speaking at which level? At which level? Okay, is it so difficult, or are you so, it's clear enough? And Prabhupada is saying that it is Krishna's arrangement. It's transcendental level, isn't it? So, but at the same time, you will see that, say, Prabhupada says in the 2.1 purport, Tam tatha krupaya vishtam ashrupurna kulekshanam. He says, tears, lamentation, all these are signs of ignorance. All these are signs of material misidentification. They are signs of attachment. They are signs of the skin disease. So, one who is attached like this has to become detached. And the Gita's knowledge will make the person detached. So here Prabhupada is speaking at which level? Ethical level, yes. Now, there are times when Prabhupada also, in the second time when Prabhupada gave initiation, the first was, both of these were in New York. The second time when he gave initiation, Hayagriva Prabhu and a few others, they took initiation. First time Keith Wheeler became Kirtanananda. Then Keith Ward became Kirtanananda. Then the second time when he gave initiation, Prabhupada says, now that you have taken initiation, you have handed over the reins of your chariot to Krishna. Now that Krishna is your charioteer, you should not lament. There is no need to lament no matter what happens in your life. So when Krishna is your charioteer, what level is Prabhupada speaking at? Metaphorical level, isn't it? So Prabhupada is saying that body is like a chariot and Krishna is the Paramatma. When we surrender to him, then Krishna becomes our charioteer. We hand over the reins of our chariot to Krishna. So Prabhupada is speaking at a metaphorical level. So there are different levels at which our acharyas speak. And of course at a literal level, when we do dramas, when we hear the stories, the literal level is, many people perceive it at literal level, and that's fair enough. At least they're getting that. So at that level of purification. Now we can say purification can come from yena kena prakarena mana Krishna niveshayet. Somehow or the other, we approach Krishna, all of these can lead to purification. And again, this multi-level approach, when you talk about it, this is there in the verse which Prabhupada quotes right in the beginning of the Krishna book. Niritta tarshai rupagiyamanad. So there also what is happening is talking at different levels. Somebody is a pure devotee free from worldly desires. Somebody wants to be freed from worldly desires. Somebody is filled with worldly desires. So there are different levels at which a person is approaching. So the point is that scripture can be applied, can be analyzed or approached at various levels. Now, when we are approaching at the ethical level, it's important to consider one key factor. There is who is wrong and what is wrong. That means who did a wrong action and what is the wrong action. So in general, it is best to focus on what is wrong. If you see in the Bhagavad Gita, there's chapter 1 and chapter 2. Now, if you consider in chapter 1, actually in the purports, Prabhupada is actually praising Arjuna. Prabhupada is saying that Arjuna is so thoughtful, Arjuna is considering. the consequences of his actions before deciding what to do. And then in the second chapter purports, Arjuna is immediately criticized. So what is going on over here? Madhusudana Saraswati is a prominent commentator in the broad Vedic tradition. He's Advaitin, but he's quoted sometimes by Chakravarti Pad, and he says the whole purpose of the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is to demonstrate the qualification of Arjuna for receiving knowledge about Dharma. Arjuna could have just rushed into fighting, but he did not. He thought, he contemplated. So the first chapter serves this very valuable purpose. And so when Prabhupada is commenting on the first chapter, largely his comment about Arjuna's pausing and thinking, Prabhupada's commentary is positive. Then, especially in the second chapter, Prabhupada's commentary becomes more critical. This is attachment, this is ignorance. So then, is Arjuna right or is Arjuna wrong in stopping? So the point is, when we are dealing with exalted characters, we don't focus on who is right and who is wrong. We focus more on what is right and what is wrong. So, we'll see in this series of purports only, sometimes Prabhupada seems to say that Chitraketu is wrong. He should not have laughed. And sometimes Prabhupada seems to say that Parvati is wrong. He says that, if Shiva has not got angry, if the sages have not got angry, why does she have to get angry? I'm paraphrasing very much. But Prabhupada seems to take both sides. See, the point is that when at the ethical level, we try to learn what is the right thing to do. So, on one side, we can say that, from Chitraketu's side, if you see something objectionable, don't be sarcastic, don't laugh. Don't give into the impulsive reaction. That's something we can learn. And when somebody has done something which seems wrong to us, don't immediately condemn them, don't immediately curse them. That's also something we can learn. So the point is, when we focus on what is wrong, here it is maximizing our learning. Where who is wrong, here we are judging. And maybe being judging is not judging who is right and who is wrong. That's not so helpful or healthy, especially when you're dealing with exalted characters. Okay. So, this is the broad approach which you're going to take here. Now, I said, I'll today talk about intentions. I said that we humans, when we see some action, we try to infer, we try to evaluate what could be the intention of the person. And our intentions, often they are determined by our preconceptions. That means, say, if we like someone and that person, say, is eating a lot of food, we say, he must be very hungry. If we don't like someone and that person is eating a lot of food, no sense control, what a glutton. Bakasur ka avatar hai. Same action. But a different interpretation. We ascribe different motivations. If we say, generally, have you heard this word? Gossip, isn't it? Gossip, what is our Sanskrit equivalent for that? Prajalpa. So, generally, when does gossip happen? When do we gossip about others? So, it is the two conditions are there. When we hear something we like about someone we don't like. When we hear something we like about someone we don't like. This person pretends to be such a nice person. Now I came to know what the reality about this person is. Now, in public interest, I will broadcast this so that everyone can know the real character of this person. So what happens is, if we hear something objectionable about someone we don't like, then we automatically assume it must be true. So basically, we are making assumptions when we are jumping from actions to intentions. We see a person's action and we try to determine what is their intention. So we are making assumptions over there. Just understanding that we are making assumptions is itself a significant step in trying to have a rational discussion, in trying to resolve the issue. As I mentioned, I was in Rishikesh. Rishikesh is known as the world yoga capital. In fact, more Western people come to Rishikesh, more Western spiritual seekers primarily, they come to Rishikesh than to all of rest of India combined together. So it is supposed to be the world yoga capital. We are trying to have a center over there now, or movement. But the point is that it was supposed to be yoga capital, but now as India is becoming a more of a tourist destination, so now people come to Rishikesh. A lot of Indians also go there, but they don't go there for yoga. They go there, the Himalayas are there, they go there for bungee jumping. You go into a helicopter or you go into high top and use a parachute and jump and have adventure sports. Now you may say it's so dangerous. What if your parachute malfunctions? Yeah, that's true. You know, we may not do any bungee jumping, we think it's too dangerous. But actually we all do a form of jumping that is even more dangerous. The most dangerous jumping is jumping to conclusions. And we all jump to conclusions. And we jump to negative conclusions about people we don't like. And this is how offenses happen, when we jump to negative conclusions. So here, in one sense, Parvati jumped to a negative conclusion. And before that, Chitraketu also slightly jumped to a negative conclusion. We could say whether he actually jumped to a negative conclusion or not. Whether he laughed, whether it was out of a derision or it was amazement. We can get into that, but let's put that aside for the time. Jumping to conclusions is dangerous. So in general, when somebody does something bad, something wrong, what are the spectrum? So if I am seeing from here and I am seeing a bad action, they have done something bad. So why did they do something bad? I am trying to understand that person's intention. So the intentions can go over three stages. This is, understanding this will give us a IIM degree. So what is IIM? When somebody does something wrong, it could be due to ignorance. They just didn't know what is the right thing to do. It could be because of incompetence. That they are just not skilled enough or trained enough to do the right thing. And it could be because of malevolence. Malevolence means ill will. They want to hurt us. Now all three are possible. Ignorance, incompetence, malevolence. That means, they say consider for example that say Prabhupada once went to with the disciples, he went to a place where, and to a person, life member's house, and they served food. And in the food, there was onion. And one of the devotees, he told Prabhupada, there's onion in this. And Prabhupada said, there's no onion in this. Prabhupada, there's onion in this. There is no onion in this. And this devotee was so anxious, he was sincere. He actually took out the onion from that sabji and he showed Prabhupada, there is onion in this. Prabhupada didn't even look at that. There is no onion in this. The devotee became silent when he saw Prabhupada's house. Prabhupada was so upset. And then, so they had the food. And then afterwards Prabhupada said that for Indians, if somebody, sadhu comes to their house, it's a very big dharmic thing. And if a sadhu goes away without taking food, it's like a disaster for them. He said it was our mistake that we didn't tell them that we don't take food without onion. We take food only without onion and garlic. So now this is not a license for us to take food with onion and garlic. That's not the lesson over here. But the point is, Prabhupada was not doing niyamagraha over here. He considered, they are prepared food, they are serving food. And he said, we should make sure in advance we tell people properly what kind of food we take and what kind of food we don't take. So it is not that those people deliberately were out to force Prabhupada and devotees to eat something that they didn't want to eat. It is not that they were evil people who wanted to break break our standards, isn't it? So they didn't know. We didn't tell them. So Prabhupada took it as our responsibility. So among these three, what they did was, in one sense, bad. They served food with onion to Prabhupada. So which motive did Prabhupada go towards over here? Ignorance. Ignorance at the level. So now, in general, what we need to do is, one of the characteristics of the godly people, the Bhagavad Gita says in 16:1 through 3 is that apaishunam. Apaishunam means aversion to fault finding. So aversion to fault finding, what it means practically is that whenever somebody does something bad, start with the least negative explanation for their actions. Start with the least negative explanation. Say if we were planning some service and then we had made big plans and then the resource that we needed for that service, that is suddenly taken away and given to someone else. And then we feel bad, you people are always against me, you victimize me, you just want to discourage me and destroy me. Maybe not. Maybe we had some plan for that using that particular resource, but they didn't know about that plan. So it could be ignorance. So if we start with ignorance, in general, starting with the least negative intention for other people. Whether it is true or not, we don't know. You might say, no, this person is a terrible person, this person has a dark intention. Maybe it is, maybe it is not. We can't really look into anybody's heart to know. But generally, starting with the least negative intention is good for our own mental health. If we are always assuming the darkest motive for other people's actions, then we will always be insecure, we'll become bitter. So for our own sanity, now it's not that we never move towards darker intention. There are bad people in this world and there are sometimes good people who also may become bad. But the point is, in general, say if we did something and we did this out of good intention and somebody comes and accuses us, you're a terrible person. What terrible, what did I do? And then they assume that we did something because of a very negative reason. And then that accusation hurts us. How could you think that I would have done something like this? You could at least have asked me. So if somebody assumes a dark motive for our actions, we feel hurt by that, isn't it? So same way, if we assume a dark motive for other people's actions, even if that motive turns out to be false, still what will happen is, we will end up alienating that person. We will end up injuring that relationship. So in general, start with the least negative motive. That this person just didn't know. Now sometimes somebody might be trying to manage a project and they just don't have the skills, say, for managing. And that's why they make a mess of things. When Krishna talks about this verse 335, Shreyan swadharmo viguna paradharmat svanushthitat. So this is often seen as a casteist verse. Krishna is telling that you all have to stick to your own caste. That's how people think of it. Well, it's not that simple. It's not that at all, in fact. Krishna's point is, first of all, that it's varna, it's not caste, and there's a big difference between the two of them, which I won't get into over here. But the varna is more like class than caste. But the point is, Krishna is saying that you work, in a way, you have a work that is in harmony with our nature. The way we can explain that verse, Shreyan swadharmo viguna, but it's better to die while doing your own duty than to do somebody else's duty. What does that mean? In general, unhappiness comes for two reasons. One is that we have ambition in areas where we have no abilities. I have no singing ability and I want to lead a big kirtan. That is a sure formula for unhappiness. We have ambitions in areas we don't have abilities. But unfortunately, far greater unhappiness is caused because we have no ambition in areas where we have abilities. Now we can do some services well, but we have some abilities, but yes, we devalue those abilities, and we have no ambition. Now somebody might be a good manager, somebody might be a good counselor, somebody might be a good pujari, and all these are valuable services, but we think we have no ambition. We just think, we don't value that service much. So sometimes some people might just be incompetent. Incompetent means that they have taken up some service for which they don't have the abilities. Now, what to do with that we will discuss later in the third session. But my point is, at this stage, we are just trying to keep our vision of other people from becoming negative. That we don't want to go around in the world constantly thinking that everybody around us is out to get us. Everybody around us is out to destroy us. No, it's not like that. Yes, there are evil people in the world, but to assume that no one is evil is just as bad as to assume everybody is evil. Isn't it? Both are dangerous. So start with assuming the least negative intention for people's actions, and gradually we move towards more negative intentions. And yes, if somebody has malevolence, somebody is out to hurt us, then we have to stop them. And how to stop them? We will discuss it in that third session. But in this way, basically, the least negative motivation. So when we start with the least negative motivation, what will happen is, two things. First is, we will have our own mental health. We'll have a healthy mind, at least increase the chances for a healthy mind. And we will also have healthy relationships. We'll ensure that unnecessarily we don't judge people negatively, and if they come to know about it, that will hurt us. So this is how when bad things are done by good people, we can try to maintain our consciousness and avoid increasing the adibhautik klesh inordinately. So I'll summarize what we discussed today. I discussed 3 main points. The first point we discussed is about how there are these 2 faith challengers. What are the 2 faith challengers? Anyone remembers? Yes, thank you. Bad things happen to good people, and then good people do bad things. And which of these is worse in one sense? Second is actually more. So, good people do bad things. How do we process this? And in that connection we discussed 4 levels of approaching pastimes. So here we are trying to see that Parvati is a good person, Chitraketu is a good person, and Parvati did something questionable with far more consequences than what Chitraketu did. So how do we process that? So in that connection we discussed about 4 levels. Does anyone remember the 4 levels? Literal, that helps us to get entertainment. Then ethical, it gives us some guidance. Metaphorical, it helps us to get illumination, get some deeper understanding. And then transcendental, that gives us absorption. So we are going to focus on the ethical level. And then we discussed that. So when somebody has done something bad to us, this was actually over here, but our specific session we are going to discuss. So we discussed the intention of the other person, then the cause of that action when it happens to us, and our action in response, our response. So we're going to discuss these 3 things. Today we discussed about the intention, and with respect to intention, we discussed start with the least negative. So start with, say, ignorance. That person just didn't know, or that person is not able to do this service because maybe they have ambition in an area where they don't have ability. And then there is malevolence. So often we assume motive, the intention. We discussed, we assume intention based on 2 things, the position of the person and the preconception we have about that person. So if someone we don't like, immediately we assume that the motive is negative. And if somebody is in an elevated position, we accept their position, then also we think that that we don't question their motive so much. But here start with the least negative, and the result of that will be, we will have healthy mind and healthy relationships. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Is there any one question?
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very much for such an enlightening and very and deep analytical session. And we are looking forward for the upcoming 2 sessions more, because I think the third one will be the most interesting. This is also interesting. So, Prabhuji, my question is basically like this much of analysis. Obviously, if you look at a proportion or ratio out of maybe the set of devotees or the set of the population of the world, I would say not less than even a fraction of this will be understood or will be analyzed by people. But if you have observed, like when we go for Govardhan Parikrama, on the mark there are so many good thoughts written. Like for example, very simple things like, socho samjho fir bolo. If you look at this, like if you summarize, that is what, so in our tradition, Indian context and so many places, there are so many good thoughts which are actually prevalent all over. And if somebody just does it or listens to it and just follows it, it is like we can apply it. But in our context, many times it is said, just chant Hare Krishna and all good qualities will develop. So if that was happening, then why are we doing this much, and why are we not so basically how to come to the mode of goodness, because all of this will lead to the mode of goodness. So is it something which we are lacking, we are not following our own culture? What is it that will actually make it happen in a quicker manner and to a larger volume of people?
Well, multiple things over here. Yasya asti bhaktir bhagavati akinchana, that verse is there. That when we have akinchana bhakti, when all the good qualities will develop. Now, if you look at the context of this verse, it comes in the 5th canto, and the point of that whole context, that whole section is that bhakti is inclusive. Bhakti is a process that includes. We don't have to go do anything other than bhakti to attain a good destination. But then we can also have an inclusive definition of bhakti. See, Arjuna did not think that, if I just chant Hare Krishna, I'll become a good archer. He practiced archery, isn't it? So, if we think we just chant Hare Krishna, a very good temple will come up. Well, maybe a good temple will come up, but people will be afraid to come inside that temple. You have to have good architecture, isn't it? So, we can't divorce any statement from the broader context in which the statements have been made. In general, in the Vedic tradition and specifically in the Bhakti tradition, when one thing is glorified, it is glorified wholeheartedly. But we often translate the glorification of one thing into the minimization of other things. The glorification of one thing we translate into devaluation of other things. Like Prabhupada said, you will please me if you distribute my books. But when the devotees asked him, Prabhupada said, if you love Krishna, that's what will please me the most. So ultimately, book distribution is important. But if book distribution makes us look, if somebody is doing book distribution starts looking down at everyone else, doing other services, that's not what is the purpose. So bhakti is inclusive. So why can we not see that developing good qualities is also a part of our bhakti? It doesn't have to be apart from our bhakti. Isn't it? It is a part of our bhakti. If somebody wants to build a temple and they see that, learning about architecture becomes a part of my bhakti, isn't it? Because that's how I can serve effectively. If somebody goes to a particular part of the world where a different language is spoken. If somebody is preaching in South India, and they're in Tamil Nadu, and Tamil is what is spoken most of them. Then we learn Tamil. We don't think that, I'll speak in English, Krishna will make them understand. No. So, learning, whether it is skills or virtues, we can see these as a part of bhakti. We don't have to see that as apart from bhakti. Why should we see it as apart from bhakti? So now as far as developing Sattva Guna is concerned, whatever helps us come to Sattva Guna, that's what we do. So if we consider Sattva, and above that is Shuddha Sattva. So for different people, different things will get them to Shuddha Sattva. So for example, some people, culture. So just come to a place like a temple. And just feel the vibes over here, see the pictures over here, and just the atmosphere, the ambience of a place, that's what gets them to Sattva Guna. For some people, the path to Sattva and Shuddha Sattva may be through the intellect. So many times this debate is there. Can Zoom classes, attending classes on Zoom be as good as attending physical classes? Well, it depends on the individual. If some people are more of an intellectual analytical frame, their primary nourishment comes from the intellectual analysis. And for them the ambience is not that important. And they may feel I can just be at home and I can hear and I can be absorbed. But some other people, the cultural ambience is very important. And when they come to a place, that's what gets them to Sattva, that's what gets them to Shuddha Sattva. For some people it could also be the social aspect. When you come around with other people who are like-minded, we sit down. Just the activity of sitting down with others and hearing or doing japa with others, whatever it is. So we have to find out what gets us towards Sattva Guna. And ultimately not just Sattva, beyond Sattva towards Shuddha Sattva. So it's our responsibility. So extremism or fanaticism, what it is, fanaticism, we may think of people who are jihadis who go around killing people, that's fanaticism. Well, that's an extreme expression of fanaticism. But that mentality is very common. Fanaticism essentially means that what works for me is the only thing that can work for anyone. The only thing that can work for anyone. So, if it works for me that, say, I fast Nirjala on Ekadashi, and that gives me a lot of strength, that makes me feel that I am doing something serious, then that's great. But for somebody else, they try to fast and their determination to fast goes away fast. They just feel overwhelmed, maybe they get acidity, this issue, that issue. They may be serious in some other way, they may be doing a lot of service in some other way. And that may be the kind of service we can't do. So it's not that if I do Nirjal, to say that anybody who doesn't do Nirjal is Nirlaj. No, that is fanaticism. So we have to be, in one sense, non-fanatical. Except that I can get connected with Krishna, I can rise to Sattva in one way, somebody else can rise in some other way. So yes, there are people who may find this kind of analysis exhausting. And there are others who may find this kind of analysis exhilarating. Isn't it? So it depends what we find it. So in general, if you want to communicate to others, analysis is a good tool. There are some people who just give them instruction and that's enough for them. But some people want the rationale for the instruction. So then we need to give that. So if we say, बुरा मत सुनो, बुरा मत देखो, बुरा मत बोलो. Some people say, हाँ, बहुत अच्छी बात है. पर बुरा हो रहा है तो कैसे नहीं देखना है? क्या अंधा बनना है क्या? So then we have to understand, बुरा मत देखो, मतलब don't assume the negative, worst about people. But sometimes bad things do happen because bad people are bad and we have to consider that. So there are nuances. So depending on who is at what level, what gives them strength, we have to present accordingly. Okay? Oh God. Should we go ahead? How much time do we have? Yes, Mataji. Who is in charge? Till what? One question? Okay, fine. Yes, Mataji. You can speak. The mic is coming to you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for wonderful class. Prabhuji, regarding that shloka, Tattainu Kampanu Susakmikshamano.
We'll come to that tomorrow. We'll come to that tomorrow.
No. My question is related with that somewhat. So, what happens that we understand the philosophy that my past karma are responsible for whatever bad is
So
happening.
that I'll talk tomorrow.
Okay,
Is our
okay.
past karma responsible?
Okay.
That itself we'll discuss tomorrow.
Okay, thank
Not
you.
tomorrow, day
Prabhuji.
after.
Okay, thank you.
You had a
Prabhuji.
question?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, actually I have two questions, but I will ask one only.
Okay.
So, yesterday I read a quote, and the quote was like, the mistakes are forgiven, but the repeated patterns should be broken. There is a difference between mistakes and the repeated patterns.
Yes.
So my question is, when people around us are, means they are our own family members, and they think something good for us, but the same thing we think that is not good for us. And we think that that is repeated pattern for us, and we want to break it and come out from it. So what is the solution for it?
You're saying that, so we are making a mistake or they are making a mistake?
They are not making mistake,
pattern-
they
the
think it
repeated-
is good for us.
The repeated pattern is something of our behavior.
Uh,
Or whose behavior is that?
Their behavior with us.
So that is a repeated pattern and we want to break that.
Yes. And the same thing, they think that our behavior is hurting for them. Means vice versa.
Okay, so in the 12th chapter, 15th verse, Krishna says that the devotees who are dear to him are yasman no dvijate loko, lokan no dvijate chayaha. That those who are not agitated by others and those who do not agitate others. So it's in general the nature of the world that when two people interact, both of them will agitate each other. So expecting that the other person will change. We can have that expectation, but if you are attached to that expectation, then often that attachment to that expectation will weaken our relationship with that person. Why is this person not changing? Why is that person not changing? So hopefully people will change for the better, but if something is happening repeatedly and they don't seem to either understand, they don't seem to understand the need to change or be ready to change, whatever be it. Let's assume it's either ignorance or incompetence, not malevolence. That they just don't know that they need to change, or they just don't know how to change. They don't have the resources, whatever. Then at such times we have to wait. Sometimes we have to be patient. And during that time, we need to have some other relationships, some other friends, some other devotees within the boundaries of dharma, where we get strength. So in general, in our relationships, there will be some people being with whom gives us strength. And there will be some people being with whom requires strength. And we will have both kind of people. So the key to managing our relationships is making sure that we make time for spending with those people with whom we get strength. So it's like when we spend time with people who give us strength, then we will be able to have the strength to tolerate or endure the people who require strength. So it's like food. If I'm eating food, then I'll be losing energy. Okay. So if I consider interactions with people, so there are people who they give strength to us. And then there are people who require strength. So what we need to do is, we need to make sure that overall, not just in terms of quantity of time, but at least in the quality of association, we make time to associate with the people who give us strength. And then we can tolerate being with those who require strength for us. And sometimes both kind of people can help us grow. In the people who require strength, they can also help us to grow. But here the growth is pleasant, and here it is the pain that is present. The growth comes later. So we need the capacity to tolerate that pain. Okay. Thank you very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki, Gaur Premanande.